once told me, the only difference between a stalker and the man of your dreams is whether or not you like him. Actually, the man who told me this was justifying his own moderately stalkerish behavior. He would know my friends' names whom he'd never met because he'd looked them up on Facebook, or where I'd be on my morning commute based on what the traffic looked like. But I did really like him. He had me there. I was flattered by the careful attention he paid to me, the way this man could make me feel special, sought out, set apart. It was also awesome to me that he was a man. I was 20 years old at the time, a sophomore in college, and he was 9 years my senior. He had attended Harvard. He worked at a hedge fund in New York. His last name was Triumph. I mean, holy smokes! After my first real relationship ended due to my boyfriend's tendency to be a pothead, it felt nice being treated like I was an adult, because in my mind, I was. I met Triumph when I was 14 years old. He was 22, had just graduated, and bought a red Spider sports car with his first paycheck. We met doing community theater in the suburbs of Seattle, where I grew up. At this place, dreams came true. A 45-year-old man played Danny Zuko, and no one gave a rip. I played Maria in West Side Story. Even then, he made me feel special, but in a cool camp counselor who remembers your name kind of way. After our time at the theater ended, our correspondence was limited to group emails, and eventually he took a job in New York and moved away. In a twist of fate, I ended up going to college in Texas 5 years later, not far from where his family lived. In the rush of finally picking a school, I reached out to him. "I'm going to college in your home state. Isn't life crazy?" When he came to town in the fall, we reconnected over Tex-Mex and caught up on the past few years. But this time around, I was on equal standing with the cool camp counselor. I'd finally grown up. We stayed in touch, and he became more than just a friend. He was a really, really special friend who made me feel awesome. We got together a few times a year, and when we did, it was like I was floating on a cloud above reality. There was nothing I could say that wasn't charming, no story I could tell that wasn't groundbreaking. After he dropped me off at my dorm freshman year, I told my friend that I just had a feeling that something would happen with us someday, but a long way down the road. Sophomore year, he offered to fly me up to New York for a weekend to hang out. When he brought it up, I got very shy. Deep down, I knew that this trip would have the potential to make us into something more. Was that what I wanted? I felt like that awkward 14-year-old, shocked he knew my name and unsure of where to go from there. So I left him hanging. Until 4 months later, when I walked in on my ex-boyfriend hooking up with a freshman who was a lot hotter than me. Like, hands down, even my friend said she was hotter than me. I did not want to be with this guy again, but I was incredibly hurt for some reason. Hypocritical, considering I was mooning over Triumph, but honestly, I'd never felt more ugly. Here's a secret that women have that is actually no secret at all to anyone who knows one. We love being adored, especially from afar. In the 1996 film of Pride and Prejudice, when Elizabeth Bennet is turning the pages by the pianoforte and Colin Firth is gazing at her with passionate devotion from the sofa, yeah, we will kill a bitch for that look. Well, I could stay here and I could feel like crap, or I could go visit Triumph in New York and almost definitely feel great. I shoved that shy teenager out of the way and let the adult do the talking. Well, emailing. New York sounds fun, after all. Can I come in 3 weeks? The next email I got was a receipt of the plane ticket he'd just bought me, closely followed by tickets to my favorite play on Broadway, and reservations to a swanky sushi place in Times Square. So now my life was a movie. Downtrodden damsel makes good and flies to New York on a whim. What a life. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was flying. It made him happy to take care of me, and I was 85% okay with that. But more than that, my friend confirmed to me how special he found me to be. When it started raining, he lost no time in pulling up the umbrella and putting his arm around me to keep me dry. In the sushi restaurant, they had hot chocolate as a dessert, and the marshmallows in the hot chocolate were perfect squares. The edges were sharp, not rounded. They made these by hand. He took me to a place where they made their own marshmallows. The one and only real move he made on me occurred my last night when he tried to kiss me. I'll never know what would have happened if I'd let him. I ducked away at the last minute. I literally held my hand up and said, "You really shouldn't kiss me." But our relationship morphed that night into what men and women have been trying to name for years. Friends, certainly, but friends with a question mark or with a parentheses around "for now." On paper, I knew there were no guarantees, but in my heart, I was 100% in, so I assumed he was too. The next day, he dropped me off at the airport, kissed my forehead, and said he'd see me soon. I floated home. This continued half a year, until I received an email from him. We never communicated any other way, letting me know that he was entering into a relationship with a friend of his, and what were my thoughts on that? In a twisted way, I knew that the nicer I was about it, the less power he had to knock me off my pedestal. So I lied. I didn't mention how disappointed I was or how ugly I felt. I said it was fine. My Cloud 9 now looked more like the cloud an evil Disney queen rides into town on, but I would not get off it. I wanted him to miss me. I wanted this girl to hate me. And if I couldn't have my dream man, I wanted my stalker back. I had found a food that would finally satisfy me. Worship. Not intimacy, not closeness, adoration. Why am I this way? Maybe it all goes back to the beginning. Eve ate the apple because she wanted power. She wanted to be a god. As long as Triumph wanted what he couldn't have, I had the power. Well, he didn't want it anymore. My descent from the clouds was a long trip over the bridge of resentment, through the valley of desperation, and across the lake of inferiority. By the end of the journey, it was normal old me again. I'm glad I took the chance and went on that trip, though. These things were always true of me. My not even a relationship with Triumph simply revealed it. I took the feeling of strength it gave me, and I hoarded it. He may have put me up on a pedestal, but I chose to stay there. I chose to remain in the clouds. But everyone knows that clouds don't have much substance. You can't stay up there very long. You have to fall. You should fall. The epilogue is, I'm in love. Not with Triumph, with someone else. And it's not always Cloud 9. I'm fully known, and I'm fully seen. It's very real. That part can sort of suck, and I'm still not so good at it. But I think he loves me anyway. These days, I sit on clouds for moments at a time, and I'll take that over living there any day.